Hello everyone, now let us discuss about Common Technical Document, which is nothing but CTD. The Common Technical Document, which is nothing but CTD, was designed to provide a common format between Europe, USA and Japan for the technical documentation included in an application for the registration of a human pharmaceutical product. The major regulatory regions, which are nothing but Europe, USA and Japan, together they have designated a common format, which is nothing but common technical document. So coming to the regulatory regions, we know that the major regulatory regions are European Union, USA and Japan. And before the formation or implementation of CTD, each of the major regulatory region used to have its own set of guidelines for the new drug application. European Union used to have expert reports and tabulated summaries, which are governed by European Medical Agency. Whereas US FDA used to have NDA, which is nothing but new drug application, which is governed by Food and Drug Administration FDA. And Japan used to have GAIYO, which is governed by Ministry of Health, Welfare and Labor. These are the regulatory bodies of these regions. European Medical Agency is the regulatory body for European Union, and FDA is the regulatory body for USA, and Ministry of Health, Welfare and Labor is the regulatory body for Japan. Before the implementation of CTD, these were the documents, technical documents that were essential for these regulatory regions. In 2000, representatives from the European Medical Agency, that is EMA, the US FDA and the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare in Japan developed a set of guidelines defining the structure and content of the dossier for an application for the registration of a new medicine that could be used across all three regions. And these guidelines were developed under the umbrella of International Conference on Harmonization, which is nothing but ICH, and have become a part of the family of ICH guidelines. And these guidelines were developed by ICH. ICH is nothing but International Conference on Harmonization. Now coming to the term dossier. What is dossier? The word dossier has the English meaning as a collection or file of documents on a particular subject, especially a file containing detailed information about a person or a topic. That is dossier. What is registration dossier? Registration dossier of the pharmaceutical product is a document that contains all technical data, which include administrative, quality, non-clinical and clinical of a pharmaceutical product to be approved, registered or marketed in a country. And it is more commonly called as new drug application in the USA or marketing authorization application, MAA, marketing authorization application in the European Union and other countries as simply registration dossier. Now coming to the aim or objective of CTD. The major aim is it would provide a common format. It would provide a common format for the technical documentation that would significantly reduce the time and resources needed to compile applications for the registration of human pharmaceuticals and would ease the preparation of electronic submissions. In addition, regulatory reviews and communication with the applicant would be facilitated by a standard document of common elements, and the exchange of regulatory information between regulatory authorities would be simplified. These are the major aims for the implementation of Common Technical Document, which is nothing but CTD. Now coming to the timeline of CTD. The first set of ICH CTD guidelines were published in 2002 and currently there are 4 ICH guidelines on the CTD. And in July 2003, the CTD became mandatory format for the NDAs in the European Union and Japan and strongly recommended format for NDAs submitted to the FDA. And since the implementation of CTD format in the EU, USA and Japan, the CTD has also adopted by several other countries including Canada and Switzerland. And the paper CTD is now destined. The paper CTD is now destined to be replaced by its electronic counterpart, which is nothing but eCTD, Electronic Common Technical Document, with the eCTD being mandatory for the centralized process in European Union since 2010. Now coming to the ICH guidelines on CTD. As we have discussed earlier, there are majorly 4 ICH guidelines on CTD. That is M4, M4Q, M4S and M4E. Along with this are 4 question and answer documents that can be referred. Now coming to the modules of CTD. The CTD dossier is divided into 5 main modules. Module 1, it governs the administrative information and prescribing information. And Module 2 deals with overviews and summaries of Module 3 to 5. And Module 3 governs the quality, that is pharmaceutical documentation. And Module 4 deals with non-clinical reports, that is pharmacology and toxicology. Whereas Module 5 deals with clinical study reports, which are nothing but clinical trials. Now here you can see a CTD triangle. We have discussed that it is divided into 5 modules. One important point is, though the CTD dossier is divided into 5 modules, the module 1, it is not an integral part of common technical document because the module 1, it mainly deals with regional administrative information. And this regional administrative information will be different for different regions. For example, application form, label to be provided, like that. So module 1 is not an integral part of CTD. Whereas module 2 to 5, the module 2, it mainly deals with overall summaries, that is quality overall summary, non-clinical overview, non-clinical summary, clinical overview and clinical summary. The module 2, it mainly governs the overall summaries from module 3 to 5. Whereas module 3 deals with quality, module 4 deals with non-clinical study reports, and module 5 deals with clinical study reports. Now coming to the general principles employed in the CTD. As per all documents, the display of information in the CTD should be unambiguous and transparent. And the ICH M4 guideline document on the organization of CTD recommends that text and tables are prepared using margins that allow the document to be printed on both A4 paper, which is applicable in EU and Japan, and 8.5 into 11 paper in USA. And the Times New Roman 12-point font is recommended for narrative text. The font should be Times New Roman and size should be 12-point font, and it is recommended for the narrative text. Acronyms and abbreviations should be defined the first time they are used in each module, and literature references should be cited at the end of each module in accordance with the uniform requirements for manuscripts submitted to biomedical journals. And every document included in the CTD should be numbered starting at page 1 except for individual literature references where the existing journal page numbering is considered sufficient. It is of note that ICH M4 guidelines states that it is not necessary to display page numbers as 1 of n, where n is the total number of pages in the documents. It is not necessary to display the page numbers as 1 of n, whereas n is the total number of pages in the document. All pages of a document should include a unique header or footer that briefly identifies its subject matter. For example, an abbreviation of the full section number and title. 2.7 clinical summary. That is an example. And to avoid 5th, 6th, etc. level subheadings, for example, 2.6.6.3.2.1 within a document, the M4 guideline allows a shortened numbering string. In this case, the document number and the name. For example, 2.6.6 toxicology written summary should appear in the page header or footer, and then an abbreviated section numbering used within the document. Now coming to the overall organization of the CTD. The overall structure of the CTD is detailed in the ICH M4 guidelines and includes a granularity section that provides guidance on document location and pagination within the CTD dossier. This granularity information is particularly useful if the dossier contains multiple indications or multiple components of the investigational medicinal product, IMP. And in addition to M4 guidelines, a set of question and answer is also provided to address the most common issues raised. Coming to various modules, the module 1 is not strictly included in the CTD as we have discussed earlier, since it contains documents that are specific to each region, such as application forms or proposed labels. And the content and format of this module is specific to individual regulatory authorities. Hence, it cannot be an integral part of CTD. Whereas module 2 to 5, though, are common to all regions, and these comprise the main body of the CTD. The modules 2 to 5, they comprise the main body of the CTD. And the module 2, it contains CTD overviews and summaries. Now coming to module 2, which comprises the CTD overviews and summaries, it starts with a general introduction to the drug, including its pharmacological class, mode of action, and proposed clinical use. Then it provides an overall summary of the quality information, for example, pharmaceutical documentation, as well as non-clinical overview and clinical overview, the non-clinical written summaries, and the tabulated summaries and clinical summary. The information provided in module 2 is based on the foundation material that is provided in module 3 for the quality information, module 4 for the non-clinical information, and module 5 for clinical information. Module 2 contains 7 sections that should be maintained in the following order. 2.1 deals with table of contents, 2.2 deals with introduction, 2.3 deals with quality overall summary, QoS, and 2.4 deals with non-clinical overview, 2.5 deals with clinical overview, 2.6 deals with non-clinical written and tabulated summaries, and 2.7 deals with clinical summary. First of all, coming to 2.2, which deals with introduction. The introduction in module 2.2 should be a general introduction to the investigational medicinal product, IMP, including its pharmacological class, mode of action, proposed clinical use. In general, the introduction should not exceed 1 page. Next is 2.3. It deals with quality overall summary. The quality overall summary, QoS, is the summary of the chemical and pharmaceutical data in the dossier, including data for biological or biotechnological products, Guidance on the structure of the QoS is provided in ICH M4Q guidelines with answers to the most issues raised provided as a separate document. And the structure of QoS, Quality Overall Summary, broadly follows the structure of the data including Module 3. And QoS should not include information that is not already been included in Module 3 or in other parts of the CD. And the aim of the QoS is to discuss the critical parameters of the product, but it should also address issues that arose during the development and provide justification for instances where guidelines were not followed, etc. And the QoS should normally not exceed 40 pages of text, excluding tables and figures. In case of biotech products and products manufactured using more complex processes, it can be longer and should not exceed 80 pages, excluding tables and figures. The next is 2.4 and 2.6. The 2.4 section deals with non-clinical overview and 2.6 deals with non-clinical written and tabulated summaries. The structure and contents of modules 2.2 and 2.4 are specified in the ICH M4S guidelines with answers to the most common issues raised provided as a separate document. The main purpose of the non-clinical written and tabulated summaries in module 2.6 is to provide a comprehensive factual summary of the non-clinical information on pharmacology, pharmacokinetics, and toxicology. The non-clinical written summaries are generally in the region of 100 to 150 pages long, and a total of 34 templates are provided for the preparation of tabulated summaries in the ICH M4S guideline. The interpretation of data, clinical relevance of the findings, any association between non-clinical findings and quality aspects of the investigational medicinal product IMP, and any implications of the non-clinical findings for the safety of IMP in humans should be addressed in the non-clinical overview. These are the points that must be addressed in the non-clinical overview. What are they? Interpretation of the data, clinical relevance of the findings, and any association between non-clinical findings and quality aspects of the IMP, any implications of the non-clinical findings for the safety of IMP in humans. If relevant, guidelines on the conduct of studies exist, then these should be noted as being adhered to or justification provided if there is any deviation. The non-clinical testing strategy should be discussed and justified, and a comment on the good laboratory practice GLP status of the studies should also be included. A comment on the GLP status of the studies. And how far they confer the GLP status, GLP guidelines should also be included. Reference to the scientific literature and characteristics of related products should also be taken into account. References to the scientific literature and characteristics of the related products should also be taken into account. For example, if a particular finding has been seen with a drug in the same class as the IMP, this should be discussed. Thus, the non-clinical overview is an integral and critical assessment. It is an integral and critical assessment of pharmacological, pharmacokinetic, and toxicological aspects of the investigational medicinal product in animals. The non-clinical overview should generally not exceed 30 pages. Now coming to next sessions, that are 2.5 and 2.7. 2.5 mainly deals with clinical overview and 2.7 deals with clinical summary. And a medical writer is most likely to be asked to write these sections. And the structure and contents of module 2.5 and 2.7 are specified in the ICH M4E guidelines with answers to common issues raised provided as a separate document. The clinical overview is a short document that provides a critical assessment of the clinical data, whereas the clinical summary is a longer document that focuses on data summarization and evaluation. The clinical summary and clinical overview provide the supporting information for the summary of product characteristics. SMPC, summary of characteristics. The clinical summary and the clinical overview, they provide the supporting information for SMPC or the product label included in module 1 CTD. So it is important these documents are consistent. The primary purpose of the clinical summary is to provide a comprehensive factual summary of the clinical data. And this includes information provided in the clinical study reports located in the module 5, information from any meta-analysis or other cross-study analysis that have been conducted, post-marketing data for products that have been marketed in other regions are included in these sections. And the comparisons of analysis of results across studies provided in this document should focus on factual observations and should not provide any interpretation of data that is covered within the clinical overview. The clinical summary is divided into sections covering biopharmaceutics and associated analytical methods, clinical pharmacology, efficacy and safety. The synopsis from each study report is also included in this module or approximately hyperlinked as an ECTD. The clinical summary is between 50 to 400 pages long, although it may be longer if more than one indication is included. And the clinical overview is a key document in the CTD dossier. This is an important point. Clinical overview is a key document in the CTD dossier. The clinical overview is divided into 6 sections: development rationale, biophysics, clinical pharmacology, efficacy, safety, and risk-benefit conclusions. In contrast to the factual presentation in the clinical summary, the clinical overview provides a critical analysis. The clinical overview provides a critical analysis of the drug development program and its results, including the discussion and interpretation of clinical finding and the relevance of the other information. For example, pertinent animal data or product quality issues that may have clinical implications. It is important to remember that clinical overview presents the conclusions and implications of the data and should not repeat the information presented in the clinical summary or elsewhere in the CTD. Clinical overview should present the strengths and limitations of the development program and study results, analyze the benefits and risks of the IMP and its intended use, and describe how the study results support critical parts of the prescribing information. The quality of the clinical program and performance of the studies, including a statement regarding good clinical practice, GCP compliance, should also be included. The clinical overview should also discuss the place of the IMP clinical armamentarium if approval is given for the license. Appropriate reference should be made to the literature to put the results into context. Finally, the clinical overview should provide an evaluation of benefits and risks of the IMP based upon the conclusions of the relevant clinical studies, including interpretation of how the efficacy and safety findings support the proposed dose and target indications, and an evaluation of how prescribing information and other approaches will optimize the benefits and manage the risks. Clinical overview should be relatively short document of approximately 30 pages. The clinical overview should be a relatively short document of approximately 30 pages. Now coming to module 3, that deals on quality. The module 3 presents the chemistry, manufacturing and control for the product included in the registration dossier. Full details of what should be included in module 3 are provided in the ICH M4Q guideline. And sections on both drug substance and drug product are included in this module. And the main headings in this section are as follows. 3.1 deals with table of contents of module 3. 3.2 deals with body of data. 3.2s deals with drug substance and 3.2p deals with drug product. 3.3 deals with literature references used in module 3. Now coming to module 4, it deals with non-clinical study reports. The module 4 presents the non-clinical reports included in the dossier. The structure and contents of module 4 is specified in the ICH M4S guideline. The main heading in this section are as follows. 4.1 deals with table of contents of module 4. 4.2 deals with study reports. 4.2.1 deals with pharmacology, 4.2.2 deals with pharmacokinetics, 4.2 deals with toxicology, and 4.3 deals with literature references used in module 4. Finally, coming to module 5, it deals with clinical study reports. The module 5 presents the clinical reports included in the dossier. The structure and contents of module 5 is specified in the ICH M4E guideline, which provides specific placement of clinical study reports and related information to simplify preparation and review and to ensure completeness. The placement of a report is determined by the primary objective of the study, with each report appearing in only one section. There are multiple objectives. The study should be cross-referenced in the various sessions. The main headings of this session are as follows. 5.1 deals with table of contents of module 5. 5.2 deals with tabular listings of all clinical studies. 5.3 deals with clinical study reports. 5.3.1 deals with reports of biopharmaceutical studies. 5.3.2 deals with reports of studies pertinent to pharmacokinetic using human biomaterials. 5.3.3 deals with report on human pharmacokinetic studies. And 5.3.4 deals with report on human pharmacodynamic studies. 5.3.5 deals with reports of efficacy and safety studies. 5.3.6 deals with reports of post-marketing experience. 5.3.7 deals with case reports forms and individual patient listings. And finally, 5.4 deals with literature references. Now, coming to some of the issues that are raised or faced by CTD. Although the development of CTD has been largely successful and all dossiers now use the CTD format, with the newer dossiers moving to the eCTD format, some regions still persist in retaining some of their original pre-CTD dossier requirements. The most common and classical example of this is the FDA requirement. The FDA's requirement to submit an integrated summary of efficacy, ISC, and integrated summary of safety, ISS, in the USA submission, even though the intent was that the clinical summary would replace them. For example, module 2.7.3, the summary of clinical efficacy, was the replacement for ISC, that is summary of efficacy. And module 2.7.4, summary of clinical safety, was the replacement for ISS, that is nothing but integrated summary of safety. This guideline provides, the guideline provided is therefore to include the full ISC and ISS in module 5 and then condense this into a summary format for the module 2.7 documents. The CTD has been largely successful in meeting its objective of providing a common format for the information included in the submission dossier. However, it is of debate whether this has resulted in the suggested reductions in the time and resources needed to compile the applications. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for further videos on regulatory affairs and ICH guidelines.